Like a backstage pass to the world of fly fishing travel, this is Waypoints, the podcast of destination angling. News and events, helpful travel tips, destination profiles, great stories, and expert advice from some of the most seasoned and experienced names in fishing travel. Waypoints is brought to you by Yellow Dog Fly Fishing Adventures, the industry's #1 specialty travel company for the very best insider knowledge, logistical support, and trip preparation. Freshwater or saltwater, international or domestic, Yellow Dog has you covered for your next fishing adventure. And now, your Waypoints host, Yellow Dog founder and director, Jim Klug.
Welcome back to Waypoints. On this episode, we're talking technical gear and packing solutions for the traveling angler. And we're going to get techie and talk specifically about luggage and gear construction, since our guest today is Ben Kurtz, co-owner and president of Fishpond USA, a company that has created high-end travel products, bomber luggage solutions, and on-water gear systems that have set the standard for functionality and performance. Ben Kurtz first joined Fishpond in 2009, and in 2012, he and his brother Will became co-owners of the company. Ben grew up fishing the high mountain streams of the Rocky Mountains, traveled east to attend Brown University, and then worked as a guide in the Vail Valley before moving into the manufacturing and gear development side of the industry with Fishpond. He has served as a past board member for the American Fly Fishing Trade Association. He's served on the AFTA Fisheries Fund, and over the years has been involved with numerous outdoor conservation organizations. Ben, welcome to Waypoints, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me up north here.
Well, it's good. We finally got you back to Bozeman, and thanks for taking the time to sit down with us and talk about gear, something that is so important for the traveling angler, luggage, packing solutions, all the things that helps us to get from point A to point B and make the trip smooth and protect our equipment.
Absolutely. That's what we do. And, that's our real passion. And, directly, that is basically our bread and butter. We are just a specialty manufacturer. We don't deviate from everything else out there. And we have our, laser set focus on what we want. And we're going to design that for the passionate angler.
Well, I want to hear all about the Fishpond story, but first we got to hear your story. You grew up in the West. You found your way to fishing as a young kid. Tell us a little bit about your first exposure to the sport and what it was that set you on the path to a career in the fly fishing industry.
I was extremely fortunate growing up in Colorado and had a grandfather that was a passionate angler, as was my father. And from a young age, I think my first gift actually as a christening present from one of my godparents that actually lives up here in Bozeman gave me a reel. And that kind of set the tone.
You had no choice at that point.
No, it was done. And, thankfully I stuck with it, and my parents, untangled plenty of lines, and it just kind of progressed through the years. And it was always one of those kind of Zen metaphors that I could get out there and enjoy the time on the water and with family. And just always knew that I wanted to be in the outdoor space, no matter what I was going to do, whether it was skiing, whatnot, and was very lucky to kind of work my way into the fly fishing world and started out as a guide in the Vail Valley, which is a fantastic exposure. And, I think it's just a critical role for anybody to understand the industry, to have that experience and deal with clients and deal with kind of that whole side of the industry as well as retail. And things just kind of morphed from there. I was a ski patrol in Vail for a handful of years, which is a great experience as well, kind of customer service and obviously some medical stuff, which was fantastic. And just slowly started to morph into full-time working with Fishpond, and I'm thankful to be a co-owner today.
Well, you said something a moment ago about starting out as a guide. And I get a lot of people that will reach out and say, hey, I'm thinking about a career in the fly fishing industry. What's the best way to get my foot in the door? How should I start? That's always my #1 piece of advice is go guide. Whether it's in your hometown or, head up to Alaska for a summer, get out and guide, because the skills you're going to learn from guiding is going to serve you well in anything else you do in this industry. And I would argue anything else in life for that matter.
I totally agree with that. And I think the service industry in general is just critical. When we hire people, that's kind of I wouldn't say it's a prerequisite, but it's one of the things that we value highly, is their ability to interact with people. How do they, deal with adverse situations? And ultimately you're going to end up with a needy client that you may or may not want on your boat by the end of the day, but you're going to hope that they walk away smiling, and whether they caught fish or not, it's just an invaluable experience. Life
skills that you can apply to anything, really.
Exactly. Yep.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Fishpond, a little bit of the history of the company. How did the company first come to life? Give us the Fishpond story on how the company was started and by whom.
Yeah, so Fishpond was started in '99. Our previous co-partner, John Lecoq, and his partner at the time founded it. And at that point, they looked at the industry and saw what was out there. And at that point, nothing against some of the other manufacturers out there, but it was kind of a boring industry. And there wasn't innovation in terms of design, colorways specifically. And they launched with 3 products, and the products were kind of a whole gamut, colorful webbings, but very thoughtful design. And that's really been kind of at the forefront of where the brand actually had legs. And we're thankful that we still have some of our sales reps from 25 years ago that are still with us today, and kind of seeing the evolution of how that changed over the years. And it's been constantly trying to find a need for solving a solution. And that started with just thoughtful design and doing something a little bit different.
Well, you began working at the company at Fishpond in 2019? No, 2009.
2009.
Sorry, 2009.
Yep.
I've got my numbers mixed up here. In 2009, and a few years later, you actually became a co-owner. You and your brother Will bought in with Johnny, the founder.
Yep.
Aside from just working there, what was it that kind of motivated you and Will to buy into the company and say, hey, this is going to be our thing. We want to be a part of this?
Absolutely. No, at the time, it was a great opportunity that I started in customer service, basically. Again, I think starting at, understanding the full gamut of the company is critical for any industry that you're in whatsoever. So I kind of morphed into work in development design alongside with John for quite some time. And at that point, his previous partner wanted out of the company, and I kind of just kept and looked at the opportunity that we had and how we could do things better. Nothing against the prior partner, but I just looked at, there's a huge landscape of where we could go. Also kind of morphing the design, adding a little bit more usefulness to it, I think was a big opportunity. So we looked at that, and thankfully we were able to take over half the company at that time. And we had John as a partner for quite some time, he's a very passionate, incredibly creative individual. And we were actually fortunate enough to take over the remainder of the company about 3.5 weeks ago. So,
well, congratulations.
So
you guys are now the sole owners.
We're now the sole owners. So it's we feel very fortunate that it's a family owned business, Colorado based, and, we can do the right things. We don't have to respond to shareholders, and we can make decisions for our own goodwill, and kind of just choose and pick the little niches that we want, and don't have to sacrifice on quality and quantity, and, do things that are right for the environment and for the business.
I'm gonna talk to you about that, because that last statement about doing right for the environment is a big thing in this industry today. And we're gonna circle back on that in a minute. But
absolutely.
The fact that you started off at Fishpond literally answering the phones, I mean, that's like the quintessential started in the mailroom kind of story and worked your way up. That's pretty cool. And oftentimes when you look at someone who is a president of a company or the CEO or an owner in this case, and you think back or look back to how they got their start with that organization, that usually breeds the highest degree of success. So that's pretty cool that it literally began that way.
No, it was a great experience, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. And, now all of my customer service people and people that I know, it's, I can jump in and answer questions and help out. And I really appreciate where they're coming from and the concerns. And it also gives you a kind of a breadth of the product if there's issues that we want to solve, if there's ever, warranty issues and so forth, and kind of gives you the whole holistic view of the company.
Well, I imagine in the very beginning, you were talking about the origins of the company when Johnny and his partner first started it. I got to think the product line was pretty basic at that time, probably just a handful of things. I would guess that this evolution over all these years where you went away from just kind of the bread and butter standard items that were first introduced with Fishpond. Now you've got lines of products that really cater more to adventure travel and outdoor lifestyle segments. How has Fishpond developed its product line over all these years to cater specifically to the needs of traveling anglers? Because obviously on this podcast, travel, is a big part of what we discuss, and it all kind of comes back to that. You guys have become known as a company that really gets the traveling angler. So how do you guys kind of think about and develop these product lines with that traveling angler in mind?
Absolutely. I mean, fly fishing in general is such a unique category of products and needs for people traveling. And there's obviously some great companies out there that make fantastic travel luggage for adventure travel and so forth. But finding the balance of the product that's actually needed directly for fishing is pretty unique. And we try to think about it differently by, whether it's waterproof compartments, it's making sure they accommodate rods in the bottom of it, just gear attachments, how you're going to actually travel. Often you're traveling in a smaller plane. Do you want something that's packable, not hard-sided on both sides, so you can actually shove it in overhead or into the back of a float plane? So we're looking at that, and we're looking at the modularity of how it works as a full system. So whether you're bringing reels and kind of the different spread, some of these trips, as you're well aware, you're bringing 6-7 rods, and often you're bringing 2 rods. So it's kind of trying to figure out that balance of what works for every angler. And, I certainly don't travel enough, but
None of us do, Ben.
I know.
None of us do.
Well, I don't know about you, but anyways, it's, we definitely field test, and we have a great set of people that we can relate to. And we're basically just trying to solve a solution. And that's how to get from point A to point B efficiently with, durable luggage that's intact and your gear's there, and, to make your trip as positive as it can be.
Well, you guys have a line on your website that I absolutely love. It describes your company as, quote, a tribe that values the journey getting to a destination almost as much as time on the water. I read that. I thought that was so cool because that is such a big part of destination angling. It seems like you guys have put together this great team and people that have definitely put their time in when it comes to travel, whether it's, in the backcountry of Colorado or halfway around the planet, people that kind of get the whole travel concept.
Absolutely. No, and it varies. And, the high country lakes that people hike to, travel to one person is a different thing to another. And often, these trips that are these exotic trips to the Seychelles and so forth are a very, unique and needed aspect. But often it's their travel experience is hiking to a high mountain lake that's 4-hour hike in and bringing all their gear and making sure they can carry their waders. And yes, there are a lot of other backpacks that work to kind of hodgepodge things together, but we try to think about that angler as well. And then also the kind of the car, back of the truck kind of systems and so forth, that often, even I find myself that's what I do for travel pretty often. So yeah, we kind of look at the full gamut and field tested, and, it's certainly evolved over the years for the better, I'd like to think. And we're going to continue to push it.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the design process, because I'm really fascinated by this. You guys sit down with your team, your design team, you get feedback from customers, that kind of thing. And you say, okay, we're going to design a new product line or a new specific product, or we're going to innovate something that maybe it's something like a rod and reel system, right? To carry a rod and reel. It's not new. People have been making these things for decades. But how do you go about innovating and designing a new product from kind of the very beginning? Talk to us a little bit about that process.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a unique opportunity. And we kind of pride ourselves as finding those voids in the market, not necessarily price point, but just finding something that is solving a solution. And that's kind of talking to the team, feedback from our sales reps that are on the water, looking at the market environment of what's out there. And then we kind of backtrack and do a design brief. So we're kind of coming up with rough parameters. Why does this product need to be in existence? We never want a Me Too product ever in the entire existence. We don't want to be side by side with a competitor and it's just based on color or price. That doesn't work for us. We want to innovate constantly. So if it doesn't have any added value, we're not going to do it. So we basically try to find those voids in the marketplace. And it may be a smaller little market. We might say guides that are, on flat boats in the Bahamas and the Keys and so forth in a Hell's Bay. How do we help them on the water? And it might be a small market, but at the same time, if we can find that void and actually get the credibility through the key guides down there, that actually organically grows the brand. And that's kind of how we backtrack it, and we can be quick and nimble and pick off those little categories as well as trying to solve bigger, issues. But yeah, when we kind of just start to dissect that whole product brief, we really come up with some pretty innovative products that kind of keep pushing the envelope and moving forward. So
how often does customer feedback weigh into the design process? Do you get customers that will email or call you with ideas, or you get feedback that, over time you then incorporate into this design process? How much does that weigh in?
It certainly weighs in. We love feedback. Unfortunately, we can't listen to all the feedback, and often people want a royalty or something like that. And that's always a tricky slope there with a new product idea, because we constantly have a running list of, I'd say over 40 products that we have in our head. And obviously we're not going to do 40 products next year. But at the same time, we kind of look at, what's applicable, what our small little team can bite off. And, we kind of go from there. And, but yeah, our sales reps, I really rely on them a lot as well as our key retailers. And they're the ones that are on the ground saying, hey, this is kind of an interesting space, or another manufacturer did this and they stopped making it, or, let's actually make this increase the size by 2 inches, because then it'll actually fit a, 10-piece rod or something like that. So the feedback aspect, and ultimately we kind of just decide what we want. What would I use? What do we think the market can absorb, and go from there?
Well, one challenge, I think, especially with soft goods in this industry and technical gear, is the struggle to stay ahead of industry trends while continuing to innovate. Once something is kind of put out there, all of a sudden there's a ton of knockoff companies that are maybe doing it at a lower price point. It's coming from overseas. It's the imitation game at that point. Has this been a difficult thing for you guys to kind of stay ahead of these trends and continue to remain at the forefront?
It certainly has. I mean, copying is a form of flattery, I suppose, but it certainly happens across the board. We try to stay ahead of it. Often, we try not to be too reliant on colorways. Because I think the outdoor industry in general is a kind of a vicious cycle, not just from the environmental standpoint, but for the retail standpoint of turning over product colorways. And, if we launched and did a new colorway in every one of our slings every year, or every other year, or twice a year, for that matter, which is happening, it's just not a healthy environment. It's not sustainable. And you're really just chasing your tail. So anything that we launch, whether it's a colorway design, we want to launch it 100%. And, we've held back product when it's not quite there, to ensure that we have the best upper hand at the time. And of course, at some point, there's going to be an Alibaba. Other brands are going to, copy you, and it pops up. And, it certainly happened with nets to some degree as well, that we spearheaded that. And, at the same time, we just have to keep innovating and keep ahead of that trend and find new sizes, frames. And hopefully, at the end of the day, we have loyal customers and a great brand behind us that people want to represent, the companies that kind of spearhead that and, speak for the right things.
What are some of the major challenges, aside from, imitation and knockoffs and whatnot? What are some of the major challenges that you guys deal with on a regular basis? Things that might surprise the average consumer who really only see the finished products, hanging on the wall of their local fly shop. What are some of the behind the scenes design and manufacturing challenges that have kept you up at night over these last few years?
Absolutely. They're numerous. I'll try to keep this a little bit brief, but, we're a small team. We only have a couple of people that really work on the product design front, myself included, and we're nimble, and we don't have the scale of production that a lot of these big companies have that can leverage production to bring costs down, have, resource teams for fabric innovation. Some of these people have 20 different people that just do fabrics. That's us. That is literally two of us having meetings, going overseas and whatnot to source our fabrics. And so we're always, fighting from a price point. We never going to compromise on price. And we're above price on some products, but that's because of the design. And frankly, it lessens the product. We're trying to get a better margin, do a cheaper fabric, cheaper zippers, compromise on stitch counts, which happens pretty often. But no, I think, we certainly have a lot of challenges on that front. But at the same time, we have great partners that we can get things done that are lean and mean, and some really innovative products at the same time. So, yeah.
Well, that's actually a good segue into my next question. And I think a lot of our listeners would be interested in the kind of quality of specifically like luggage, packs, sling packs, things like that. And specifically, where do these products in the industry typically fail? When something falls apart or goes bad with a pack or a piece of luggage, is it usually the seams, or is it the zipper, or is it a problem with the material? How do you guys avoid the common failures that we see with a lot of other luggage and travel products, especially at lower price points that are out there in the market?
Absolutely. No, I mean, it's a very valid question. We thankfully have 25 years of experience of seeing what's out there, issues in the past. We've been very fortunate. We have less than 0.3% is our return rate with a lifetime warranty. So it's very minimal. Every once in a while you do find some issues. I was just talking actually to one of our factories yesterday, and, we're doing, tests with luggage. So they're actually testing it with weights, rolling luggage going over stairs. They have a machine basically that's actually testing it constantly for days and days on end. Grab handles, up to 85 pounds, dropping it, making sure that those don't fail. And then using the best quality components. And that's really the bread and butter. Fabric is obviously key from a puncture resistance. Airlines are not getting any easier on this luggage, these days, but, even just replaceable wheels that we have. And, if you have a problem with a wheel, we can just pop on a replacement. So yeah, it's an ongoing battle. But ultimately it comes down to just great design, quality products, and good manufacturing. And then we've kind of just alleviated that takes care of the rest.
I think it would be great. You could just drop, a new piece of luggage, new design off at DIA for like 2 weeks and just constantly recircle it through baggage handling and see what comes out, at the end of that process. Because you're right, airlines are not easy on gear. And, when we travel to fish, oftentimes we are forced or required to check a lot of our really expensive and valuable gear. And that's nervous.
Absolutely.
It makes you nervous when you are handing over that, rod vault or that suitcase that's got all your reels and, a lot of expensive equipment and terminal tackle. You're like, okay, I hope I see this 4 flights later, tomorrow when I arrive in my final destination. And sometimes that stuff just gets brutalized. So protecting that gear is everything, protecting that investment.
It's critical. And that's, we really look at that with, we have a new luggage line that we're launching this year that is kind of a paramount, expect exactly what you're saying. It's an ongoing battle, but we try to have the best solutions out there.
Do you have a favorite product personally that your company has developed or designed in all your years at Fishpond? Is there one particular product or item or creation that you're really attached to or proud of?
That's a pretty hard question.
It's like asking about a favorite child, right?
Yeah, exactly. Favorite dog. I don't know. Probably my most utilized piece is my large submersible Thunderhead duffel. As simple as that is, I think it's a really innovative design that we came out with, a long time ago. Bomber zipper on it. I take that on cat ski trips. I take it all over the world, basically backpack straps. But it's really the most utilized one. Another product that I'm very proud of, it's a very unique product that we launched this year, or we're launching this year come November, is it's called our Storm Shadow chest pack. And it's a really interesting product. It's kind of a hybrid chest pack. I'm personally not a chest pack person. I love people that buy chest packs, but it's not me. But it's basically was designed after a ski patrol radio harness. I used to be a ski patroller, and basically it was meant to carry a heavy load in the front, but by being completely streamlined. So the back, everything conforms to your body. So basically you can carry a couple of fly boxes, has a completely airtight waterproof zipper pocket, so you can access a phone with just a straight zipper. So it's really easy to get in and out of. And then most importantly, it has a net carry system in the back, so you can carry a long handled net without a problem. And it stays totally out of your way for somebody that really knows what they're doing, just throwing a few boxes in there, jumping on the river for a couple hours or guiding. It's a really cool, unique system that, I'm glad we finally got that to fruition.
And that's coming out in the months ahead. So we'll look forward to seeing that.
Absolutely.
I got to tell you, probably one of my favorite pieces of travel gear is the Fishpond Thunderhead backpack. Waterproof backpack. And anyone that's listened to this program over the years knows that I am a waterproof backpack junkie. I've owned them all. I've used them all. I've traveled with them all. This has become my favorite waterproof backpack. It's like a 32-liter capacity.
Yep, exactly.
It is perfect for the flats. It's perfect for, long hikes on the trail, wherever it is you're going. But I've used them all. And in the end, this is the one that has become my absolute favorite. I think it's the best one out there.
No, I appreciate that. And it's a great size. That is a close second in terms of my favorite product. And same thing. Again, it is a everyday kind of carry situation for me. We make a great little insert in there as well. That, keeps things organized if you want for laptop and so forth. So also when you get to a destination, keeps your reels nice and padded. Appreciate that.
Well, yeah, it's a great carry-on piece of luggage for the journey. And then when you arrive on location,
totally functional.
It becomes functional as your flats backpack or your boat pack, your waterproof day pack. It's perfectly designed. It's a great product. Let me change gears a little bit. And you mentioned this a few minutes ago, but as a company, you guys have always had a strong commitment to design innovation. We know that. We've talked about that. But you've also incorporated your passion for protecting the natural resources that our sport depends on, right? This has become a core component of your business. Talk to us a little bit about that, because this is really kind of at the front and center of your messaging with your marketing and your advertising. It's become really a part of who Fishpond is.
Absolutely. I mean, it is in our DNA. It's not just working with groups and stroking checks. There's so much more that goes into it. Obviously, I'll get into recycled fabrics and some of the things that we're doing there that are positive for the environment. But on this note, I mean, the number of organizations that are out there, whether it's, Fighting Pebble Mine, I serve on the board of AFTA, or did serve on the board of AFTA. I'm actually on the board of American Rivers as well. I'm a sub board down in the Rockies. And, we're traveling, going to the DC on the Hill, which we did together back in the day with AFTA. And, people listen to you. And it's, we're coming from the outdoor industry, the fly fishing industry specifically. And if you can have those connections with people on the Hill, other companies, and you can actually make real change. And it's been something that's part of the DNA. It's not going away. And sometimes, we have hard conversations, and we're obviously going to take stances with people that we believe and organizations that we believe in. And sometimes, you're not going to make everybody happy, but that's part of the reality. And we're, those are the consumers that we care about, and we'll take a stance.
We talk a lot about that here at Yellow Dog, especially the fact that it's an election year, right? We don't, endorse candidates. We don't put a bunch of lawn signs out in front of the fly shop or the travel offices for one particular candidate or one party. It's best in business to kind of avoid political stances in most situations. But where we do get involved and we are willing to put our name out there and make noise is conservation causes. Right now we're dealing with Montana Stream Access, which is a big deal. We're sponsoring events for that, and we're happy to put ourselves out there as a company and a brand to endorse the things that really matter to our sport and to our business in the outdoor industry. And, it's an interesting challenge for a lot of companies these days, because there can be some backlash occasionally. You might lose some customers that feel like you're getting overly preachy, or they don't particularly agree with your position, and so they take their business elsewhere. But it does matter for companies, especially in the outdoor world, to stand up, speak up for, and fight to protect the things that we have to have in order to move forward as an industry. And certainly, it matters to us on a personal level as well. These are the things we love, and so it's good to see a company like Fishpond, others in the outdoor industry, that are willing to make conservation such a part of their structure and their brand.
No, I appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, it all comes down to conservation, and that is what our generations down the road are going to have. And we have to do the right thing and hopefully lead by example, and other people join in on the right causes, and, try not to be overly preachy, but at the same time, those are the things that we all believe in, and ultimately the survival of the sport.
Well, one thing that's really cool is Fishpond recently became, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you guys are the first company in the entire fly fishing industry to become B Corp certified. Explain what a B Corp is and why this is a big deal for your company and for the industry.
No, absolutely. Appreciate that. So we are actually next to Patagonia. They're maybe not strictly a fly company, but at the same time, we were the first fly fishing direct brand to be a certified B Corp. And B Corp is a really interesting certification process. It's actually
not an easy process.
It is not an easy process. I spearheaded that myself, which is very arduous to say the least. But it's a really great certification that puts into a lot of different parameters about the overall health of the company. So that can be down from highest wage to lowest wage, women in the workforce, environmental practices, money donated to nonprofits, recycled fabric content, CO2 output, all those things kind of wrapped into a big bundle.
You have to check all of these boxes.
You do, exactly. So you're getting a score that you have to check, and you have to achieve over 80% is their kind of threshold. And you get, you don't hit all the points, and you get some points and you get partial credit for some and so forth. But it's a ongoing certification. We're going on 7 years now. So we have to renew every 3 years, and it actually is an evolving scale. So even though we qualified in 1 year, doesn't mean that we're going to qualify the next year. So we're constantly looking at that. And that basically, one, it just changes I wouldn't say it changes, but it makes us stay true to our mindset of who we are as a company. So every one of those kind of actions, whether it's designing a new product, starting to track some of our CO2 output, are we changing LEDs in the warehouse to different lighting, all those things, it keeps in the back of the mind. So you can't just all of a sudden start deviating and going off course. And that's one of the few things that we, can actually easily achieve as a family-owned business, is we can make those decisions. And sometimes, financially, they certainly have ramifications, and we could do it a different way, but we're, committed to running it the right way, and proud of all the other B Corps that are out there.
Well, and hopefully more companies continue to move in that direction, especially in the outdoor segment. I mean, again, it's something we all depend on, and this is our playing field that, in which we're all operating. So it matters. How do you think, Ben, the fly fishing landscape, both the sport of fly fishing and the business of fly fishing, the industry, how do you think that landscape has changed since you first started with Fishpond back in 2009?
The landscape, retailers and so forth, obviously everything evolves. The internet's been a huge change, obviously, over the years, even with my time, and how that's evolved. And for better and worse, there's great scenarios where it's actually a huge tool and helpful, and other scenarios where it can be a detrimental asset for some of the manufacturers and so forth that are potentially playing in that field and really directly competing with their specialty shops. And the longevity of what we need in this industry for it to survive is these specialty local shops, just like yourself here in Bozeman. Without that, we're dead. And you can have a direct consumer pop up and so forth, but people come in. I mean, it is it's a true family of people that they come to these shops because they have a passionate relationship with these shops, and they come for advice. They want to know what is Jim Klug using, what rods he using, what is this, and without that, it all gets blended. You can do dump money into marketing and so forth, but you really need that level of commitment at the retail level. So we've seen that, and obviously there's competition, and that's ongoing. Certainly some knockoff products and so forth, but everybody's growing. Some new brands that are out there, which are really innovative, and ultimately it just ends up pushing us harder because we have to stay ahead. And this is our lane. We're not trying to be everything to everybody and start to do apparel and all kinds of random products and we certainly could, but we want to just excel at what we do and do it well.
So we're not going to see Fishpond fly rods or sunglasses anytime soon?
I don't know. Yeah. No, that is not on the 10-year. That's not in the 10-year plan.
Personal watercraft.
Yeah.
Well, what do you see for the evolution of travel gear specifically, specific to fly fishing over the next few years? Are there any trends that you're observing, any predictions that you have for the next few years of kind of new and innovative introductions that we're going to see? And you don't have to, give anything away as far as what you guys are working on, but talk to us about general trends for travel equipment and travel specific solutions.
Absolutely. I think, without giving away too many details, we do have some pretty innovative ideas that are on the docket that maybe we'll share offline. But it's, we kind of break it down into a couple different categories. Obviously, the travel from the car person, somebody that's hiking, that's into a different category. I also kind of break it down into a carry-on travel. So often when I'm traveling, I try to carry on, and I might have 3 rods strapped onto my backpack, my Thunderhead backpack, just kind of jerry rigged on there. And then I bring my submersible Thunderhead duffel, and that's my whole program. I have everything that I need. If everything hits the fan, I'm totally fine. Have all my rods, have everything. Don't have to worry about tracking bags and all that stuff. But then kind of the modular system with the bigger trips, and often you're bringing 7, 8 rods, and yes, you can put some of those into Dakota, but then, where's your underwear go? Where do you, put everything
you
else?
Have boots and waders, you got rain gear.
Yeah. So we're looking at that from a continue to evolve on the modular standpoint, and really maximizing the use when you get there. And like you said, with the backpack, we have some other ideas that are kind of around that zone, that are fully usable once you arrive at your destination. They can kind of go in and out, and that are just really thoughtful. So
nice. So I want to ask you if you have any really memorable story or piece of feedback that you've received from a fish pond customer over the years that has really caused you guys to switch directions or rethink how you're doing things. Is there like one specific example or story or moment over the years where it was kind of an epiphany for you guys on, oh my God, we didn't think about that. Let's react, let's change, let's introduce this. Has there been one?
It's certainly putting me on the spot there. That's all right. I can't think of it where we just immediately pivoted to something. I'm sure that there are numerous examples. I do know of an example of a gentleman that was out in a hurricane and actually ended up using our backpack as a PFD flotation device to get out of his house, which was a pretty kind of wild thought from multiple levels.
That is also memorable for sure.
Yeah, while we cannot, definitely memorable. And while we cannot say that they're U.S. Coast Guard certified flotation devices, they certainly will work in a pinch. And I have friends that'll swim across a river with $15,000 of camera gear in the back. And I'm hoping that was a great production run that we don't have any issues with, and makes you a little bit nervous. But no, it's certainly the gentleman that came to us and said that he, kind of used that as his flotation device out of his house was pretty kind of brings it home a little bit.
That's a great testimony to the quality of the waterproof zipper, that it would actually hold air and float a grown person through floodwaters.
Yep.
Yeah, I would call that memorable.
All right.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll take that.
For sure. Well, personally, Ben, any destinations on your radar for the future? Are there any kind of emerging travel destinations or fishing opportunities on your horizon that you're excited about?
Never enough. Certainly hoping to make it down to Mexico at some point. Come here February, March. And then always Argentina still has just a deep, I have a huge, deep love for Argentina down there, and just the culture and the fisheries down there. So those are kind of the two that are, a little mix, and a little mix of both.
Well, something to look forward to. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, Ben, close us out with a few specific travel tips or recommendations for traveling anglers that can help them up their game when it comes to transporting their gear, protecting their gear, packing the right gear, and arriving ready and in the game. Give us a few takeaways from your years at Fishpond.
Absolutely. I think that starting off early, in my opinion, and this obviously depends on the person, but I put gear out about a week out in advance, and then just start to make sure I have everything there organized. And ultimately I forget something. It might be something stupid and maybe not necessary, but might make the trip a better trip. Do you bring your little jam box? All right, great. All right. And it kind of sets the tone for that. And then ultimately by the end of it, you typically don't need as much stuff as you bring. And, I always bring, all these shirts and 4 different pairs of shorts. And I'm like, well, I'm in the same board shorts for 5 days on the boat, and big deal. It ends up working out. And then I kind of look at the setup. I try to carry light, I try to carry on if all possible. So, depending on the destination, and certain destinations like down in Cabo, they will not let you carry on fly rods, but in Cancun they will. So, go figure. Doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
One, right?
I've done the whole saran wrap around the duffel bag program down there last minute, and it's not pretty. But kind of looking at the the requirements for the airports, airlines. I mean, I carry on, my pliers all the time, and everybody's like, "Oh, you're going to get this confiscated," and I haven't had a problem. But, just looking at your necessities and carrying on, I always try to have people, especially that I'm traveling with, just bring enough stuff that if you get there and you don't get your checked luggage, you're going to survive. And it might be a couple, pairs of boxers and board shorts and flip flops and 2 fly rods and 2 reels and half a box of flies.
You're in the game.
Great, you're good.
Yeah.
And it's, sometimes as going to Cuba or somewhere like that, that's what you got. And you're not going to see that product, your whole bag for a week. So better make it work. And so that's kind of my advice and what I've learned over the years.
Well, I like what you said about overpacking. And I find that inevitably you always bring more than you need. And for me, one thing that's proven really effective is I will get all my gear together. I'll lay it all out on the floor in my gear room. And then I will go through and try to cut everything in half. And I'm rarely disappointed because, you kind of end up with the right amount of gear at that point. Instead of, as you said, 4 sun hoodies, you need 2 for the week, right? You can usually cut everything in half. You start big, you scale it back, and you end up with the right amount of gear. But we could talk for hours about different tips and travel advice, and it's something we've covered a lot on this podcast, and certainly more to come with future episodes. But Ben, this has been great. Thank you so much for sitting down with us and sharing your background and your experience and talking to us a little bit about the Fishpond story.
No, absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity, and it's great to be up here. Good to see you again.
Well, we can expect some great things from Fishpond this year. You guys have some exciting new product lines coming out, and the months ahead should prove interesting.
They should. Yeah, no, it's going to be a good one and a big release this year, and I think a lot of travel destination applicable products. So it should be great.
Well, congratulations on that.
Absolutely.
That's great. Well, that is it for this latest episode of Waypoints, the podcast that is 100% dedicated to travel, destination angling, and the search for adventure. Be sure to visit yellowdogflyfishing.com to plan and research travel, source gear, equipment, and flies for your next destination, and stay up to date on the latest angling news and developments. Join us for our next episode, and always remember that life is short and no one ever regretted a life of adventure.
This has been another episode of Waypoints, the podcast of fly fishing travel and adventure angling. Waypoints is produced by Brian Gregson with music provided by the Steep Canyon Rangers. Visit yellowdogflyfishing.com for more destination profiles, travel news, and expert advice, and be sure to join us for our next episode.